Hello, I'm Jerry Ford. I'm going to not a review, that's just habit. I'm going to read a story here from this book called The Scary States of America. 50 Weird and Terrifying Stories, one from each state, based on true events by Michael Teitelbaum. Jeremy picked out a state to read. He picked out Alaska. So let's see what kind of freaky things come out of Alaska. Here it is. Well, we were close, Jeremy. Bigfoot lives. We were thinking the abominable snowman, but Bigfoot is cousins to the abominable. I can't even say that word. You know what I'm trying to say. Okay, so Bigfoot lives. Okay. After my rude introduction to the paranormal a few years back, I found myself drawn deeper and deeper into the world of the unexplained. One of the first places I stumbled across when I started to check all this out was a Bigfoot chat room. I got totally into the stories, legends, and real-life sightings of this creature. A buddy of mine from the chat room, who calls himself Bigfoot, in parentheses BF, Ed, texted me about something that happened to his uncle. Okay, so here's the conversation through messages back and forth. So BF, which is going to be the guy named Bigfoot, otherwise known as Ed. Okay, so Jason, you're not going to believe the story my uncle just sent me, Paraguy says. Paraguy is me. Let's see. By the way, but you probably figured that out. Try me. Sometimes they confuse me in how they do these chats back and forth. Jason, you're not gonna believe the story my uncle just said. Okay, maybe you guys know how it I guess he's calling him Jason, but yet doesn't know that he's Paraguay. I don't know. So BF says back, he tracks bears in Alaska and he had a real life encounter with a Bigfoot. I'll forward the story to you. Bro, it's unreal. Here's the tale Bigfoot Ed sent me, as told by his uncle, a nature photographer from Anchorage, Alaska, named Alan Mara. Hi, Ed. I know what a Bigfoot fan you are, but don't think I'm making this up just to humor you. I wish I were. I'm still traumatized by the whole thing, but I figured telling you would help. At least I know you'll believe me. I was on another expedition to a wildlife sanctuary in Alaska to photograph brown bears in the wild, which you know I've been doing for years. The sanctuary, located at the northeast end of Alaska, northeast end of the Alaska Peninsula, was created to protect the world's largest gathering of bears. The Alaska Department of Fish and Game strictly limits access to the park. There are no roads in the sanctuary. The only way in or out is by light aircraft. Visitor permits are distributed through a lottery system, and only about 250 people a year are allowed in. So when I received my permit, I considered myself one of the lucky ones. After being flown in and dropped off, I set up camp right near the swiftly flowing river that winds through the sanctuary. I had a 3-day supply of food, and I wouldn't see another human being until the pilot returned for me on the 3rd day. On the way back to my campsite at the end of my 2nd day of shooting pictures of bears, I spotted a set of footprints. They were enormous, at least 16 inches long, 6 inches wide, and square. The second toe was longer and larger than the first, while the other 3 toes were small and appeared to be webbed. In all my years of shooting wildlife photos, I had never seen an animal that could make tracks like these. I took a few pictures, convinced that no one would believe me without evidence. With my mind racing about what could have made the tracks, I returned to my camp, built a fire, and started preparing dinner. Like everyone else, I had heard tales of Bigfoot creatures. I know that in 1967, 2 men in Northern California named Roger Patterson and Robert Gimlin took the only known film footage of a Bigfoot. I'd seen still photos from the Patterson-Gimlin film in several books, but I never thought I'd ever actually see a Bigfoot track, if that's what these really were. I was excited and not at all worried. All the reports I'd ever read described Bigfoot creatures as shy, likely to flee at the sight at the first sign of humans. In fact, my biggest fear was that I might not get a glimpse of the creature, if it even existed. This was before I knew what I know now. I had never read some of the older descriptions that referred to the creature's tendency to break bodies into 1,000 pieces, and their taste for human flesh. As the sky grew dark, I heard a rustling in the trees a short distance away. Grabbing my camera, I approached the edge of the woods. I heard a twig snap behind me and spun around to find myself staring up at a 7-foot-tall creature. It had a thick, muscular neck and a small, cone-shaped head with heavy brow ridges above its piercing black eyes. Its long arms dangled by its side, its knuckles scraping the ground as it hunched over. My brain wasn't really processing what I was seeing, but my photographer's instincts took over. Glancing down, I saw the creature's enormous hairy feet. I raised my camera just as the beast snarled, revealing its fanged canine teeth. As I focused my camera, the creature lunged toward me. I felt a powerful clawed hand clamp around my left shoulder. As searing pain shot down my left arm, my right hand clenched and I pressed the shutter release button. Flash! The camera's flash went off as I snapped the picture. The creature instantly released its grip, crying out and stumbling backward. Its enormous arms swung wildly, slapping the camera from my hand and into the snow. Recovering, the creature bent over, picked up the camera, and slammed it into a tree. It smashed into 1,000,000 pieces, destroying the proof of my Bigfoot encounter, along with all the incredible bear shots I had taken. I started running for my life. I saw what Bigfoot had done to my camera, and I didn't want my head to be next. The creature gave chase, lumbering awkwardly after me, clearly enraged. I reached my campsite and looked down at the crackling fire, over which hung a pot of stew, realizing that the bright light from my camera's flash had startled the beast. I quickly grabbed an extra shirt from my tent, wrapped it around my hand, and pulled a flaming log from the fire. The creature kept coming. When it was just a few feet away, it grabbed for me with its long arms. I swung the flaming log in front of the beast's eyes, and the Bigfoot howled, backing up. I continued to wave the burning log back and forth, sending embers fluttering into the gathering darkness. The creature growled and then turned and shuffled back into the woods, kicking up clouds of snow as it tromped away, but I knew it would come back. Catching my breath, I contemplated my next move. I realized now that the Bigfoot was also afraid of fire. Having gathered a large supply of firewood on my first day, I surveyed my remaining pile. I figured I had enough wood, so I got to work building a circle of campfires. When I had about a half a dozen fires going, I placed myself in the center of the blazing ring. The plane would be arriving early the next morning. All I had to do was make it through the night and hope I didn't run out of wood. I've spent a lot of time in the wild, but this was the first time I really thought I might not make it out alive. I wrapped my sleeping bag around me, huddling against the cold Alaskan night. I had to stay awake and alert all night to tend the fires. I couldn't afford to doze. I thought about all I had lost. 2 days worth of irreplaceable photos of bears in the wild. Photos of actual Bigfoot tracks, and maybe even a shot of the creature itself. Not to mention my best camera. I pushed those thoughts aside and realized that this journey had become a mission of survival. I stood to lose a lot more than my photos if I couldn't keep the creature at bay for the rest of the night. I heard rustling in the darkness, and then Bigfoot appeared at the edge of the flickering circle, its reddish-brown fur highlighted by the fire's soft glow. As one of the fires died down, the creature moved slowly toward me. I scrambled to add more wood and stoke the flames. As the flames grew, Bigfoot backed away. This cat and mouse game continued throughout the night. As the sun rose over the Alaskan mountains, I placed the last of the wood on a dying fire. This was it. I couldn't risk leaving the protective circle to get more wood. The creature stood waiting just beyond the circle, as if it knew it was only a matter of time before the flames died out and its prey was left unprotected. It growled and pawed at the ground with its foot, like a bull preparing to charge. As the sun climbed into the sky, the fires finally burned down. Bigfoot slowly approached the circle of glowing embers. I'm not going to make it, I thought. Overwhelmed by hunger, cold, and terror, I was exhausted. Now the fires were totally out. The last wisps of smoke rose into the brightening sky. Bigfoot advanced, baring its fangs. It was hungry too. It no longer looked at the campfires. Instead, it stared directly at me as it moved closer. I'm not going to make it, I thought again. Feeling slightly delirious, I'm not going to die here alone, eaten by Bigfoot. Too weak to run, I collapsed into the snow and awaited my fate. No, it didn't say I'm not going to. It says I'm going to die here alone, eaten by Bigfoot. That's what he was thinking. So he collapsed into the snow and awaited his fate. Then, as if in a dream, I heard the distant hum of an engine. Looking skyward, I saw the small plane that had dropped me off. As it drew closer, the creature turned and disappeared into the woods, scared off by the deafening roar of the engines. I stumbled to the plane, feverish but finally rescued. I told the pilot about my horrible ordeal, but he looked at me like I was a crazy person waking up from a nightmare. If only I had those photos. Well, Ed, keep spreading the word. Bigfoot does exist, and he's no cuddly teddy bear. The end. There you go. Harry was only trying to give him a hug and tell him that he loved him, but he was scared that he was going to get eaten by him, right? So that's Alaska. So if you ever go to Alaska and go up into the snowy mountainous regions, be prepared. You might just run into Bigfoot up there. There you go. Author is Michael Teitelbaum. Paranormal stories. If you're into this kind of stuff and you collect these kind of books and such, check out one of these books. Get one of these books. Buy you one, and that helps the author, down the road, and they appreciate it. All right. Well, we will see you on the next one. Bye.